I suppose people got more things to do. All right, you guys ready?
Ready when you are.
Turn your headsets on. We'll start with the working session. And we'll get board member number 6, Sonstegard here for the regular session. So, let's start right off with the citizens forum if we've got one. I don't see, everybody in here actually is an employee of the school at this point. No third parties there. All right, well, let's go right into board committees. Any discussions? Meet and confer. I will take that. Carla and I were at the meet and confer in late May. Had topics fairly wide ranging, but and this is the meet and confer, so you all know, is something that meets maybe 3 times a year, and generally on the request of the teaching staff, as opposed to, you know, a pre-planned thing. But they just had a few different things. I think the bulk of our time was dominated by the copy machine discussion, which sounds pretty mundane, but sort of trickling its way into the classroom where you're having problems achieving stuff, you know, tangible material that these teachers need for whatever to put in front of their kids and use. And the copy machines are, I don't know, failing miserably. Is that an exaggeration? They just back up, I think. They have jamming issues. So it was just a discussion if we can get the rental company, Marco, to just be a little more attentive there. I think they were very polite about it, but they were using the district office one more often than they wanted to.
And they're getting more printers, right, in classrooms.
We're gonna get a printer cycle going. We won't be able to do it all in 1 year, but we're looking at some key increases for some printers or print stations.
Thought we were all supposed to go paperless.
We should.
I think that was back with the Clinton administration,
Yeah,
wasn't it? We made
that
that,
was
and I'm not exaggerating, it was pretty close to
Yep.
them.
Are they leased through, like, Marco?
The copier thing.
Yep.
So do you have a maintenance contract as part of that?
Yep.
Okay.
I think specifically one of their complaints was that they didn't get up enough to correct them necessarily. They don't replace them, but they were very rudimentary. One guy was anyway, was putting a piece of duct tape or a note on there saying, don't use this slot here or something like that. And they were just wondering if we could be more efficient with what Marco had to offer. So once again, and I think I'm exaggerating when I say failing miserably, it just was not meeting the standards they needed for the classroom. So see if we can make that happen.
And that was mostly in the elementary work primarily.
We had discussions about the hiring process, which has been sort of a fast-moving cycle here the last 3 months or thereabouts. I'm really pleased with the way Principal Merchant's been handling that. Thank you. I mean, we've been seeming to get gaps filled pretty readily, but I think that there was just a concern that it happened so fast, it's almost dizzying fashion sometimes. And the good example was the hire, and then the guy stepped aside before he even, you know, came here. And I think at the social studies level, and then immediately there was a hire, and you were well aware of names from your contacts, having just gone through it less than a month prior, so they were available. And I think that the suggestion about a policy, offering that up, a policy, we hemmed and hawed and kind of kicked that around a little bit, but we're not really embracing of it because a policy would really slow down that potential process, especially when it comes to timing or it comes to candidates who come in and out of your purview very quickly. So they're available. Go ahead if you want to.
I was going to say, Tim, easy solution for me if something happens like that, even if somebody resigns, I will just start sending emails out just to let everybody know this is what's happening. So-and-so's retiring, so-and-so's resigning, and we're in the process. So that, you know, I can see that. So it's, and you know, the other hires I did the year previously because of COVID, I think because of COVID, things were more distance and weren't questioned. So yeah, I think if I just send emails out when things like that happen, people can feel like they're in the loop.
Yeah, I think that she suggested the word, Carla did, transparency, and I think that's really all that's necessary there. We talked about enlarging the size of the committees, but then that even becomes cumbersome in terms of trying to arrange 8 or 10 people on a hiring committee, and then that gets passed on, becomes long-term as opposed to the immediate need.
I guess from my perspective, the bottom line is you hire administration to make recommendations for hire, and then the school board is responsible for taking those recommendations into consideration. And traditionally, we've had some big hiring committees, sometimes almost to a fault for some positions. But I think you hire your administration, you need to trust us that we're gonna try to fill these positions with the best people that we can find, and sometimes, especially with the lack of candidates that are available, and we don't get a lot of people applying for positions, if we can fill them and do that, then that's why you have administration. So we'll try to have the committees organized as best we can when appropriate, but bottom line is sometimes we might just make an administrative recommendation based on our experiences.
Okay, IT communications was also discussed, how we offer up individual IT communications to the staff, and they tend to take on a life of their own in a lot of ways, and I think what we resolved was to try to be more specific within the building as to how you communicate with your peer groups, with those who are really in need of being on that chain and those who are not. I think you and Liz discussed the very specifics of how you return a message as opposed to replying all just very quickly, but then that becomes out of hand type thing, and so they either don't get read or they get read in the wrong context, and so just seeing if we can't clean that up a little bit, and then also trying to get people like me who need more help on the communications front to go in and have physical eye-to-eye conversations with the IT staff as opposed to just relying on your emails to go ahead and do that for you. So I think that we're just trying to be more human in terms of the high-tech world there. Fair summary?
Yep.
Okay. And then lastly, unless I'm misremembering all that, we did discuss, and you see it in your sheet, but we discussed the potential for student memorials and if the teachers had any thoughts on how that gets handled as well. And I think what we've arrived at is in the board packet at the moment, but sort of a mix of their discussion and their thoughts on that as well. So, and I know as a board we discussed that last meeting. Otherwise, any questions on that? Okay, moving on. Do we have, School Forest Committee. Did you make that?
I did.
You did.
It was a
Well,
small
I'm-
group.
sorry. Yes, I didn't, so I'm
Yeah.
relying on you, thank you.
We, probably the biggest thing was just talk about the shelter and what the needs are and where to go. So we did go out and look at the site, lay it out and see what size you could even fit there in that space. But I don't know, I think there's a little more work needed on really defining what the need is and what the uses would be. So we make sure we spend the money the right way. Almost the right way.
Is there still a thought that will be implemented by the end of the summer, or no, when you say a little more time needed?
I don't realistically think that it would be, and I know there's a strong desire to have that happen, but I think we might be getting ahead of ourselves as far as what we end up purchasing, and it'd be nice to do something that's durable, and I'm not sure that we'll get that if we just purchase a tin shed from Menards. So.
I think if we could look at something for next summer.
Yeah.
School year probably the biggest need for the upcoming school year would be a bathroom out there.
Yes.
That's our.
Yeah. And that did get relayed that during summer camp that was a need, and making sure that they follow the protocol to get that request in. So.
Did you get any of the respondents to the, we sort of interrogated, asked them to fill out, needs and stuff for teaching staff. Wasn't there a?
That was that survey that
Yep.
Bobby,
Yep.
Yeah.
They did.
I think she emailed it, didn't she?
Yeah.
I remember seeing that. That would have been the cannon fodder for what you were talking about, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, questions, thoughts? Seth, you're on board with that? Okay. Finance Committee.
Well, we met today, and prior to the meeting, we went over the financials, and Sheena provided us with a nice little narrative, so I think you all have that attached, which was very, very welcome. And we also talked a little bit about the budget, and that was about it, I guess, so. Things are moving forward real well for finance right now.
Can you clarify the last sentence of the summary? We were budgeted to have a deficit of 270,000. Is that?
That was for 2022, that's in the budget.
The 268,699 deficit is primarily in Fund 4.
And
community ed.
there was a typo in the narrative. The 11,000 for, I need to look at this minute.
Finance 161.
Finance 161, that should be 113,728. Or 727 or something.
Instead of
Yeah.
11,000?
Instead of 11, it should be 113, is that right?
So Fund 4 community ed, that's where the deficit is, and that's primarily the resurfacing of the pool that wasn't budgeted.
That's right.
Yep, and that will be recouped through the pool levy over several years. But we put it down as a deficit because it wasn't budgeted. In fact, our Fund 1, if everything comes out, should be near zero, possibly increase the fund balance by 20,000. I think we're projecting 24,000. And a $8 million deal, 24,000
Give or
is like
take.
counting pennies. So I think she has done a nice job. So we're sitting good with the upcoming end of this fiscal year, and next fiscal year we're sitting fairly good too.
Yeah, I think I remember this properly, but next fiscal year, we're already projecting a $45,000 deficit, which obviously isn't a huge number, but is that something that we just sort of nod but don't take corrective action yet for? Let's just see how things budget out, class sizes, whatever.
And that's across all funds.
Correct.
So I think if you look at the budget sheet that was sent out, I think our Fund 1, we're looking around 75,000 deficit right now.
Yep, that's true. And for the most part, it's Fund 4 again.
So
But we are using for next year that we're not gonna have the following year.
So right now, we've had, we've been able to have smaller class sizes, primarily due to the ESSER funds that we've been getting. And after next fiscal year, those funds will dry up. We do have declining enrollment in the high school. So I think moving forward, we're gonna have to start tightening the belt a little bit, and look at class sizes and what's an appropriate class size. But we have all of this next year to kind of start looking at where can we cut or save or absorb money and try to preserve program as best we can. And we're sitting with a very nice fund balance. So we have a couple small classes filtering through. I think if we make some good choices in fiscal year 24, we can absorb the expense and not totally demolish our fund balance, but we can use a little bit of that fund balance to kind of soften the blow as we go. So.
Okay.
Did I take care of half of my presentation then?
Sorry, I didn't know if that was the appropriate time for the question or not, but do her again when you get there. And in terms of committee assignments, I think that's all I see listed. Thank you, Carly, for doing that. Any other questions before we move on to the superintendent's report? Okay, hearing none. Superintendent Jeff Nelson.
Okay. So freshwater summer camp, and I know Mary will talk a little bit about the credit recovery for the high school. But over the 2-week session, we had 90 to 119 students each day, which is nice. Classes included STEM, book club, math challenge, comics, geography, technology, school forest exploration. That included birdhouse building, and that was in conjunction with the Whitetails Unlimited and the DNR. They did team building skills using group games. There was social emotional strategies, as well as physical education activities and baking. Again, we were able to have more staff and pay a little bit higher salary to get people to work in the summer using some ESSER dollars. So I think class sizes ranged from 8 to 13. And a big part of our freshwater summer camp is that working with the freshwater school district, and that's extended school year funding that pays for the bulk of that. Board action items, land sale to MnDOT, that was in your board packet. I put it on here, so this would be a good time for questions or discussions, anything that I put in there. The warranty deed I had to write up. I put the information on the assessment. You know, this Buildings and Grounds Committee met with, I forget the guy's name, from MnDOT.
Can't remember it either.
So it's not a lot of money for the land sale, but there's not a lot of use for the school. So I think the consensus of the Buildings and Grounds Committee was to just accept the sale and move forward with that. Probably actually doing us a favor and removing a liability for us.
You know, one of the things that you should make sure is that if that's listed on our insurance, that it gets taken off once.
Yep.
Once it's gone.
Okay. Inactive unpaid meal accounts. Again, I have the write-up in the board packet. I put a deep redacted so you can see the number of accounts and how much. And it's by policy. Any inactive or unpaid meal accounts after 3 years, we write them off. I didn't write down the amount. It's a little over $4,000. But if we go back to 3.5 years ago, prior to the pandemic, we were around 15,000 with unpaid meals. And once we do this, starting off the new school year, we'll be under $200 with delinquent meals. And those are ranging from 25 cents to $55.50. And if you did look through that policy that we adopted a while ago, and I don't have the numbers in my head, but once they reach, I believe, 150, there's steps that we will be taking. And our new food service person will get really good with that. So we have some processes that we will implement to try to keep families current on their meals. So hopefully, we basically started off with a clean slate, and hopefully we can keep that way. Summer hours, I did meet this morning with the cabinet group, and we'll keep the district office or the main office, one or if not both, open throughout the summer, Monday through Friday, unless it's a holiday. 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Office staff may elect to work a 4-day week, whether it's a Friday or a Monday, and I'm giving them the options to do 4 10-hour days, or they have the option if they want to put in their 8 hours, and if they have stuff that they can work at home, but they need to be accessible at home during those additional 2 hours. And then when we do only have one person in the building, if there's a day like that, or some people are gone, we've talked about making sure that when someone comes into the office, they have a face to talk to, and if it's not the right face they need to see, that person will give them contact information or a way to get a hold of that person and make sure that there's timely response for inquiries for whatever department that would be. Update on student memorials. I don't have anything in writing yet. But what we've come up with, memorials will be for students who pass away during their elementary or high school years. Plaques measuring no more than 12 inches wide and 9 inches high may be placed under their class graduation picture. And we've offered a memorial tree can be purchased and will be planted along the designated area along the walking. I don't know if walking track is going to be confusing, but the path that goes on the north end, I think we've kind of designated areas to add tree planting there. That's kind of the direction I'm going, and I don't have anything written up yet, but any questions on that or suggestions or things I should add? Seth, do we have specific trees, a list of trees, or
No,
anything we want
last
to?
I asked was to get flowering.
Okay.
Only had a little spruce up there a little bit and help with birds and bees too.
So no conifers?
Probably not good enough for that
Okay.
this area.
So we might want to have a recommendation of what
Sure.
memorial trees we want to plant out there. So
Start an apple orchard.
there you go.
Trees, all those become
Do the plaques then, they go under the class graduation picture, they stay there through
Eternity,
eternity?
as long as the classes, so they'll stay with the class.
Yeah,
You can see there's, out of the commons, we have 3,
yeah,
4.
and then you eventually move them.
Then they eventually move, so they'll stay with that.
They'll stay there until they move into the other hallway and they'll be moving with.
Okay.
And I think if you go down that one hallway, there's another one with the student underneath, so. That seems reasonable to me. Can't think of anything else. We do have one of our new hires here. Bill Wilson, welcome. Administrative assistant. Food clerk, so she doesn't know what she's getting into. She will quickly figure it out, so. That's all I have, unless there's other questions or anything else I missed.
Anybody got a question? Okay, hearing
Well,
none.
Lisa's kind of a new hire because you
Yeah.
advertised for that position.
Oh, yes.
She's looking at me daily.
Sorry, I didn't even see you there, so thank you.
You know why? Because she got her hair cut, so I didn't even know her when I walked in.
So I'll probably have an embarrassing picture on Facebook tonight.
The control I have now, you should be careful of being nice.
So I better be careful, so.
Put your Santa picture back on there. Santa came in July, you and Brenda. Flashback.
Oh, no.
Flashback.
No, that's, thank you. That would be embarrassing.
I'm keeping things professional.
Welcome. She'll do a wonderful job. She's been doing a good job with that, so.
Yeah, welcome aboard again. We are. Move on to high school principal Mary Merchant.
High school had summer school the same time period as elementary for 2 weeks. We had 34 students in attendance. I'm gonna say sorry to say there were that many. Last year we had 36, so we're going in the right direction. And all but a few of them completed everything with credit recovery, which was good to see. And the others I've communicated with parents and they will continue to work on it. The goal is to have them done by the end of June. So hopefully that will be the case. I do have some letters that did go out today to 7th and 8th graders who failed some core classes and haven't finished anything. So I just wanted to make sure there was written follow-up other than the conversations I've had with parents so they fully understand those core classes are something that's critical for our students to pass before they're moved on to the next grade level. And the handbook is completed. Other than adding the updated calendar in there, there really weren't any changes to it, and dates changed for the academic eligibility policy. There really wasn't anything we changed wording to, or policies or regulations or anything. And the same with the course period schedule that was attached. It's the same one as before. We just, after Diane and I sat down and everybody had their schedules put in, needed to switch a couple of periods the classes were being offered to get them to balance. So I am very excited to say come July 1st, we will be ready to go live with the high school schedules so the students and parents can see them and have access to them. So we are the head of the game in that regard. And then June 14th through the 17th, I attended the high school principals conference. That was very good to be able to connect in person with some Northern Division principals. And a couple sessions I attended were on SEL, and for this upcoming school year, that's going to be the high school teachers' focus, the social emotional learning for their PLCs, and so it was good to be able to get some information to come back and share with them. And Dee Stenberg's also been working on some different topics and a document to share, so it's not like we're going to expect them to come up with their own things to work on with the students, but definitely is something we will be addressing. And then curriculum, Jeff sent out to elementary teachers if they needed refills for the reading, and then math one, high school, obviously, it's just 2 teachers, so I just had a small meeting with them. And then when I spoke to elementary teachers at staff development, we will have some meetings this upcoming school year to really do some review and analyze where we are with our math and strengths, weaknesses, and what other supports we may or may not need, depending on how we're doing. And science, we're sitting good as far as alignments with how the standards changed with 8th grade and 9th grade. So this fall, 9th grade will be earth science. But we didn't need to change anything with curriculum materials for high school. I mean, we just switched the grade levels, so we didn't need to do any purchasing. Any questions for me?
Are you fully staffed? I mean, there's no gaps in that. I looked at every course had a teacher next to it.
Yes, yep, we are sitting good. Oh, and when you look at math and English with the MTSS, I think it's either going to say enrichment or interventions. I think we have the word intervention, and teachers thought it sounded better if we said enrichment. It wouldn't have a stigma to it like interventions might. But we will have that fully in place, starting with our 7th and 8th graders, to put that support for them. And band and choir, we're fully on board if we need to pull from those 2 classes to pull during 5th hour for our junior high kids.
So that's like a supporting class? Or
Yes,
if they're
yes,
not,
yes,
if they're
it's in
struggling,
addition to
Sure.
the class that they're in.
Okay.
To help work on the skill work that might be lagging.
And the full-time sub we're hiring is school-wide. I mean, this is not specific to any grade level. Okay. Okay, any further questions? All right, well, business office, Sheena Brand. We had the finance committee, any further discussion?
Any questions for?
Well, I know we had some issues with payroll, this guy's payroll. Has that been cleaned up,
So the
sorted out?
issue was, for the most part, I didn't have all the time haven't used Time Clock Plus before, so I know Time Clock Plus is utilized here. So I had timesheets for all the custodial staff and transportation, but I didn't have anything for the paras. So that's been resolved. Harley went and printed them all for me. I did talk with Region 1 and they indicated that usually Time Clock Plus has where you can import it into payroll, and it's never been used like that here. It's just the time sheets have been printed and entered. So they said, we suggest that you don't even do it because we're going to get a new time clock system coming up. So they said there could be a lot more issues than just doing what we're doing. So there was a lot of people missed. And then there was one custodian missed. So then I went through all the timesheets and then I found all the subs were missed too. So I put that through, was it last Wednesday? I got everyone paid. So now we went through, printed them all, so no one should be missed this time. Other than that, it was just missed. Going through payroll, I did find just a lot of things weren't set up right. So, for instance, we have a sub that comes in, they get a daily rate of pay. And then you have a long-term sub that gets a different rate of pay. Well, they didn't have the correct daily rate of pay programmed in the payroll. Instead, it was entered as like a manual override. So me coming in, I'm not gonna know, I'm just gonna pay them what's programmed in. So, there are some retros that have to be done for community ed because the lifeguards weren't paid correctly all year. So, I'm correcting their pay from the whole year and giving them their retro and then making sure their new wage is in. But for the most part, as long as you have payroll set up right, it goes well, but I just found things set up. It's kind of the perfect time to come in and just fix it. In the summer, and things have slowed down. But. So Time Clock Plus is separate, but now the new system that we'll be getting, I want to go live with it sometime in July, but I have a lot of setup that I have to do in order to get it to that point. And Region recommended that we start off with smaller groups and just ease our way into it. So hopefully by the start of the year, I can get live with everyone. Another thing I found too was I had Harley print and we ran reports for last payroll just to make sure no one was missed. Well, I find out that people were able to enter their time off late, or, oh, I had leave without pay this day, but they would turn it in or enter it after the pay period was done. So there was no way of me knowing. So I have to go in and deduct pay for people that weren't deducted necessarily the prior pay period. So we found that we just needed to close the pay period, or that wasn't being done, I believe, since March. PTO hasn't been entered for a couple months for everyone either, so it's just a lot of things to update.
She's been putting a lot of extra time.
I've worked the last 3 weekends.
Yes, in fact,
Like,
you were on the phone on Saturday.
eventually.
Yeah, so, appreciate it.
I do plan to take the 4th off, but I know, and it's hard because I think, there's just been a lot of upset people, but me coming in too, like when people turn in timesheets, I knew you have to be more informative on different things, just because every school functions a little bit differently, but Harley's been a great help on that question, so, and Jeff, so. It's gone good, but the one positive, I think everyone was paid. Everything that I put in, everything was right. The only issue was not having time sheets. So that should be fixed going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Along with saying thank you, I do appreciate this, which makes that much more palatable for somebody like me
Yes.
in terms of the highlights of what's going on. So thank you for taking the extra time to do that.
Yeah, so if you want something different, just let me know. Every school's a little different, so if you want more information, let me know. I was late, I'm very sorry, but I was working on the budget, and me being new too, I worked all day Thursday, Friday on Lake Woods, and then it was going into Saturday, and I was trying to figure out where I was off on our budget. Called Jeff, and we finally figured out it was just our debt service payment. Our bonds were being paid out of Fund 1 instead of Fund 4. So basically, we were duplicating the expense.
So we had a deficit of over $1.4 million.
Yeah.
So I only had one sleepless night until we figured out what was going on.
So I'm like, gosh, this isn't right. So then I moved the expense because we were budgeting for the expense in Fund 7 and Fund 1. So I just moved it to Fund 7 where Fund left.
So she got to see me in panic mode, and I told her, I think I'm gonna go outside and throw up.
I didn't get to see you. I was talking to you on the phone. But. So then finally, like after Saturday, I got the budget all done and I felt good about it. So.
Yeah, because isn't it in Jeff's contract that he makes up the difference
Right.
for on any?
Right, straight off the top. 10 years of indentured service. All right. Further questions? Activities Director and Community Ed, Sam Lyon.
A quieter month for me. I took some vacation time, which felt good. A couple of significant, really exciting highlights. We had 2 athletes go to state. Riley Stronland competed in our boys varsity golf meet, and Paige Hack took 6th in the 100-meter dash down at St. Albertville, St. Michael. In the final, I mean, when I say 6th in the state in terms of the 100-meter dash. So we were incredibly excited for those 2 athletes. I think we had a great time down there. As individual athletes in those types of competitions, I think it's one of those things where you want to go with your team, and they had their support of their family and stuff. But fun for them too. I know that Paige got to hang out with the Bagley track team who was there as a team, and Riley was hanging out with Greenbush, and so you start to have this kind of northern crew enveloping them in the experience, which I think was really meaningful. And for Riley to be a senior in that as well, just a really, such a proud moment for us as a community to be able to send those kids off and have that experience. So I felt goosebumps when I talk about it. So that was a big deal for our athletes, for our coaches, for our families. Community ed side of things, we've got our summer programming happening, summer ball, a 10U softball team, 10U baseball, 12U baseball, 15U baseball, 17U baseball, plus about 40 plus kids out for T-ball, which as you can imagine is like just controlled chaos, like just barely controlled chaos. Matt Skoog and a team of volunteers is doing a great job with that, as well as rookie ball, which is fewer, so more controlled, but still always a little bit of chaos. So many thanks to Matt, who has stepped up to take the T-ball, rookie ball combo this summer to kind of head coach that. He is Jenny Skoog, who is our cross-country varsity coach. They're married. So a dynamic duo in terms of partnership. She's running a run club this summer, which is also funded in part by the Freshwater Grant. Tuesdays and Thursdays, she's had anywhere from 7 to 15 kids come out for that. We do various activities. We'll have a kind of year-end thing happening, I think the 28th or 29th of July. A little bit of bad news. We have had the Prairie Fire Theater, which is slated to start or happen on August 15th. They have canceled due to short staff for them, which is a huge bummer. We will have our deposit transferred to next year. They have canceled it. I have a small hope that maybe we could try and put it on if they could find a director to send up here for that day. I don't know. So if it happens miraculously, that'd be great.
We have local people interested in doing that? Would they?
Yeah, I think that's the question. It happened while I was away, and so I haven't really dug into it. It's such a cool program. They show up Monday morning at 8 and have, I mean, it's just, they take anybody and everybody who shows up from think it's 6 years old to 18 years old. And they have we're gonna do Aladdin, they have costumes, they have the scripts, I mean, it's just, and they do it for a week, and then there are performances Friday night and Saturday afternoon. So it's this whirlwind of an experience for kids for the week, but it's an important introduction into theater and what theater feels like and how to do that for the community. So, Cece and Joyce Washburn is gonna be our on-site director, but Cece, this is her, she loves this, and I think she is quite bummed that it's not happening. So yes, I think that's a great question in terms of, are there some local options that we could potentially kind of finagle to see if that's a possibility? It hasn't happened because of COVID for the last few years, so we'd like to resurrect that in some way. So, other than that, this summer is a lot of catch up and planning for next year. I'm excited to jump in a full-time role in terms of setting up some structures on both the activities and community ed side. Already diving in a little bit on the website. That's part of my purview now as well. Lisa and I are tag teaming a cleanup. It is not a restructuring at all. It'll look the same, might be a few different headers, but it is mostly tidying up what's already there in terms of content, making sure that all of the pages that are there have appropriate content that is up to date. So yeah, we've had a preliminary kind of proposal seen by the cabinet today. I think feel good about the initial step. If you've never been a part of website redesigns, they are a beast. So this is not a redesign. I want to be very clear about that. This is simply making sure that everything's up to date and that we can clean up some content. So we're not sending surveys. It's going to be some work for us, but it'll be worthwhile in terms of making it more efficient and more usable, more functional. Any questions on anything? Cool.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Moving on, Seth Putz, Building and Grounds.
I've got the update I have for the road parking lot repair. We have not heard back from the FEMA team that was up here a couple weeks ago on whether we're receiving funding or not. But it's getting a little later in the summer. I talked to Rex, and we're gonna probably start either this week or next week on repair. We can't push it off any farther. It's becoming a real safety issue. It's gotta get taken care of. We'll just have to figure out how to deal with it once it's done. The window replacement project manager quotes, I think you guys have those in the packet. So I've been working with two places. Woodseth is one of them. And their initial quote was about the same as what ARI was. But I started talking with Woodseth. When they were here quite a while ago, they did the school of service, taking all their blueprints and transferring over to digital. So we have a digital copy in case anything happens. That was free of charge. And because we did that, I was able to talk with their architect, design people. And one of the things that they charged the most for was to work with their engineers to design and inspect the windows. But since they did the blueprints and had them on hand, they were able to take that and drop that $15,000 fee. Well, they dropped it down considerably to the $5,500 for the design service. ARI, we were not so lucky to get that. They wouldn't drop that. They said we have to have it. And that's why theirs is considerably higher. So my recommendation, and I think I'm gonna go with spearhead the project and get the windows things going a little bit. I've been working with Anderson Window also. I met with them a couple weeks ago and came home and did a walk for about 3 hours across the property. Looked at the different windows we have, the designs, what potential windows that we could use, energy efficiency, all that stuff. So that's an update with that. Is there any questions about the windows at all?
So you're only working with one window company? Is that what you're saying?
So far.
So far, okay.
So far. With Woodseth, I got a hold of Anderson. I haven't got a hold of anybody at Marvin's yet. Doing all this bidding and different ways of doing things is kind of beyond my scope a little bit and the legalistics of it. That's why recommending going with Witsup. They spearhead that project because of their design team. They know what they're doing. And they can fill in where I don't. They also go and do the bidding or quoting, whatever needs to get done. But I do know in Anderson rep, and we started talking a couple months ago, and they came and asked if we could come out and start looking at that. And then I've been trying to get a hold of somebody at Marvin's to do the same.
Are we looking at a multi-year project or?
They're gonna do both. So it's gonna be a little bit tricky, because if we go to a single year project or a big project, we're gonna have to go to a bid program. If we do the 4-year where we broke it up, then we will be able to go to a quote. We won't have to follow jumping through as many hoops, because you're breaking it up per year. Now, one of the things I'm gonna sit down with Seth and go over is pros and cons, especially right now with the market on lumber and everything, availability. If we decide to go with the 4-year program, how far is the price gonna jump each year? That's a very big concern. If we have to do it now, how do you fund it? You know, a couple avenues that we're looking at right now. In the LTF down this slate to start July 1st, to start looking into this if it goes through, LTFM goes through.
And that's sort of what we had discussed, right? The long-term facilities program is, hopefully we can stretch that out and not having to incur that immediate debt. But like you said, if it makes more sense, and it'd be nice to have a WITSEF apparently tell you. And I guess the other thing is, from a local standpoint, I really would want to make sure that Marvin's had their name at least in the discussion.
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. I would prefer to keep it local, but if the price difference is that much.
Yep.
I mean, you got to do what you can do.
So we get what, 135,000 out there each year? Is that off the head?
I think after all expenses were out, I think, currently, I think we're sitting at 143.
So part of that goes towards,
My revenue projection shows 88,000 for next year.
I think a portion goes towards a bond. Maybe, or what was it that, I thought we had something like that. Small. I'll look that up. I shouldn't think about
Yeah.
that. Work with something else.
Anyway, it sounds like we're all sort of facing the same direction on that. Just a question of, you know, where the end result is.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna get moving on that as fast as I can. It's been prolonged for quite a long time, actually too long. Well, that's kind of an update on that. Then the last one is the chiller replacement. Last week, we were able to get the old unit removed and remove all the old piping, get the new unit in place. We also already have the coils and the chiller on both sides and piped in, so once we get the electrical hooked up on that and get the outside piping done in the system chart, we should be ready to go. Well, it's gonna be a little bit, and there's a lot of electrical that has to get changed because of the location of the compressors due to the design compared to the old model. And also have to drop down, believe it or not, go from a 400 amp panel down to a 300, which is quite expensive. Because this unit's so much more energy efficient. So it's gonna take a little bit, which leads into just a note, this weekend, school is closed just for the holidays. But Saturday and Sunday at periods, I prefer the school just stay locked, because we're gonna be shutting the power down completely, so they can do the electrical up there. Well, it's just a heads up for everybody. That's all I got. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. That brings us to the end of the working session, unless somebody has something else they'd like to bring up and discuss. I would like to, as you're thinking about that, just point out that we did accomplish our 24th Take a Kid Fishing event last week. And once again, went really well under what I consider really trying circumstances when you look at the condition of the watershed here. But specifically, and my round numbers are that more than a third of that volunteer staff, whether you were in a boat or cooking something or cleaning or whatever you were doing, were school-affiliated people, past and present. So the school steps forward in really nice fashion. Lisa Beckstrand specifically, slap her on the back next time you see her, but she took charge of that right through the winter, you know, and all the reluctant heroes that are part of that sort of owe it to her to keep us focused in the right direction on that too, because it continues to be just a tremendous event. And like I said, it happens because people who you'd think were sick of kids after 9 months of it managed to show up again in June. So maybe you're right in the right occupation. So thank you.
So side note with that too, Tim, just, it's really, really good, and I think it's important. National Honor Society, is that correct?
Yep.
Every year have been participating. This year with the people that were there were absolutely fantastic. When pitching in, they just jumped right in without any questions and just did what they needed to do.
Well, we're getting kids old enough that they're returning to, if nothing else, do first mate jobs, or some of them even have boats. And you had kids in your rod building class actually show up in volunteer services to make what are really nice pieces of equipment for fishing. You know, rods specifically that they're wrapping, and you know, under the tutelage of Seth and Ralph.
I do have a question though. Did we ever get the sign out front looked at, the power? Because it was a big draw.
The Kevin Holland discussion about the
So it is
electric.
ongoing a little bit. Kevin and I have been in discussion with that for probably 2.5 weeks or so. But he went out, took a look at it. It is not on a separate meter. It is on the meter for the school. It was never separated. So all the charges that have been incurred for that have been on the school. He's gonna dig in a little bit. I gotta get him the specs for that. He's wanna see, make sure that that increase is consistent with that unit there, how much power it draws, and that we don't have a short somewhere else.
I think once we get that information, we probably are well overdue with having a joint meeting with.
Before the next ice sheet goes in there, kind of thing. Yep.
We're supposed to be doing that. So
Yep.
we should probably try to do that in this fall.
Have they hired a new coordinator or whatever?
I have heard some interviews, but no one has been announced at this point. And I don't know specifically who that is, so.
The only big thing you missed was Jeff is $1 million in debt. He's the Phil Mickelson of the Lake of the Woods community. All right, any other discussion? Seth, thanks for that. Anybody want to take a quick break? Because you've got about 1.5 minutes. You want to? Anything else we want to discuss? Now that Robin is here, you don't have to talk behind her back anymore. Okay, that's it. I'm not sure what the highlight of the last hour was. But
Yeah, well, my day didn't quite go as seamless as I'd hoped, so.
I do. I see that in the district office, there's like a sign saying, hey, come this way. Is Harley not gonna be out front no more? Are we not gonna have anybody in front? Yeah, all right. Well, I didn't know. Okay.
Yep.
Are you moving into CC's office? No? I mean, is that?
I don't know what I'm.
Well,
She gets the front.
Not know what she's getting into.
You haven't officially, I heard you say that earlier, you haven't officially started yet. This is like
Right.
the first time you've sort of shown up in the official capacity.
Right.
Well,
I'll ask you next meeting, we'll see what happens.
private space when she needs for.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna call it 7 o'clock. Second hand and everything. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're calling the meeting to order. I said at 7, writing that in. Looking at the agenda. There it is. I see a few red marks on it. I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented.
Make the
I'll make that
motion.
motion.
I'll
Motion
second
by
it.
Ellis, second by Johnson. Discussion.
So all I added was, with Samantha going into activity, I forgot to put community ed director, because it encompasses both positions. And then 8D, we are doing student meal and milk prices for 2022-2023. So that the milk price increases in addition. And then K was a late entrance, was the 2-year preventative maintenance contract with Peterson Sheet Metal. And I think everything but the community ed piece and the milk price being added to it went out in your board packet.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor to approve the agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, including the approval of minutes, including the approval of invoices, statements, and the bank reconciliation, the approval of personnel resignations, retirements, and appointments, specifically Sierra Detweiler as a paraprofessional, Jill Olson, administrative assistant and food service coordinator, Lisa Olson, part-time media and public relations coordinator, Amanda Reardon, floating substitute, Samantha Lyon, activities community ed director, Brad Abbey, transportation supervisor, Harley Poppets, finance and HR services coordinator, and Anthony Browse, bus mechanic and assistant custodian. I need a motion and a second.
All motion.
Motion by Robita,
Second.
second by Johnson. Discussion.
So is Brad coming back in?
It's changed from a full-time to a part-time position,
Okay.
so I will need to add that into changing his position to a .75 FTE.
And is Tony Browse making up that last quarter? Is that what we're seeing there in terms of?
The bus
Some of the
garage.
bus mechanic stuff, yes.
Okay. Further discussion.
Good to see there's no resignation.
Okay, I'm waiting, but hearing none. That's a good list of additions. Thank you. All those in favor of approving that consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries unanimously. Board presenters. None. Written communications, I did not see any.
Other than your MSBA flyer that was in your file.
Did Robin get Robin's?
She did.
Okay. Old business, none. New business, I need a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2021-2022-030 to approve the fiscal year 23 budget as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ellis,
I'll
Second.
second by Trask. Discussion. I think the line that we always use, it's a work in progress or something like that, and we're starting that again for another 12-month period, right? Okay.
This is, we have to do this to allow us to spend money starting July 1. So,
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Again, unanimously. I need a motion and a second to approve the long-term facilities maintenance plan for fiscal year 23 as presented.
Make the motion.
Johnson,
I'll second that.
second by Ellis. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. I need a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2021-2022-017 from MnDOT's request for acquisition of property for highway purposes.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Trask,
Rowita's second.
second by Robita. Discussion. We're all aware of the piece we're talking about, the amount of money, and it looked like they're very thorough in terms of their end of things, so.
Especially
Okay.
considering the value.
Okay, well, all those, are no other questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. A motion and a second to approve student meal and milk prices for the 22-23 school year as presented.
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Second by Robita. Discussion?
So the milk was a last minute thing, so milk prices went up to 30 cents and we increased the price to 35 cents. Increased to 10 cents. I think that's the same with the lunches as well.
And the meal difference was something like 30 cents at the high school level. It's pretty minimal difference, but why don't they have that increase on the breakfast level? Because it was the same on the two.
Off the top of my
Went
head.
up 10
yeah.
cents.
Oh, it did go up 10?
Yep.
Oh, I thought it was the same. All right. Just figured there was some consistency there. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. A motion and a second to approve writing off inactive and unpaid meal accounts as presented.
I will make that motion.
Ellis? Second by Doug Nosen? That ain't gonna happen.
Second.
Second by Johnson. Discussion. Actually, pretty good effort to consider where it got from where it
I
was.
guess I think that it was a really good effort by everyone collecting those and
Multi-year effort.
multi-year effort.
I mean, I joke
yes.
about that with Doug, but he's the one who sort of initiated this process, 6 years ago or something, I think.
And it shows now with such a small outstanding balance that what you've tried is working, right? So
Yeah.
to keep that up and as best you can.
Okay.
Hint, hint.
And why'd everyone look at Jill?
So if I can add, thanks to Cece, she does that a lot.
Yeah, she put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, so
It kept us surprised every time she made progress. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. I need a motion and a second to adopt the post-issuance policy and post-issuance debt procedures for Independent School District 390 as presented.
Make the motion.
Johnson,
I'll second it.
second by Ellis. Discussion. No explanation necessary? I'm okay with that.
Off the top of my head, I have to dig out my write-up to remember what I.
Yeah,
It's-
it was confusing when I read
It
it
was
too.
just, it's a recommendation from Ellers, and they included some changes that we should probably have in place with procedures for the policy. So it's based on their recommendation to the district.
Yeah, and they've been really good about what we've asked from them in the past, so it seems like that's a trustworthy source. Okay, well, I'm okay with it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. I need a motion and a second to approve a resolution 2021-2022-015, accepting a donation of $500 from the Wyra Williams Youth Recreation Association to the Lake of the Woods Backpack Program.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ellis,
I'll second.
second by Trask. Discussion. Nice job.
Yeah, wonderful.
No further discussion.
Just a thank you too.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, when I say nice job, I don't know if that's a conflict of interest. If you thank a board member for giving money to the school or whatever it is, but you're involved in that, right?
Yeah, I headed up, that was part of the Tickets to Read program.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That it made $7,170 is what we raised in our raffle and donations.
In a small town like Williams, people open up their pocketbooks.
Well, we spread her out.
Yeah.
We go from Warwood to Badette, and so the funds made were spent and the rest is saved for next year.
Well, once again, thank you. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. I need a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2021-2022-016, accepting a donation of $207 from the Wabonica Lutheran Church to the Lake of the Woods Backpack Program.
I'll motion.
Robita,
I'll second.
second by Sonstegard. Discussion?
They're just an ongoing contributor. It's really appreciated.
Every month or every other month, I think.
Yeah.
I couldn't quote on that, but, and I assume that comes from the pizza sales. That makes sense?
Yeah, the wood-fired pizza.
At which they had a community band, I think, last week, didn't
They
they?
did, yeah.
That's another school sort of outside the community, but I mean, I know Liz is integral or vital, or what's the right word, in getting that thing going, which sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Carries unanimously. I need a motion and a second to approve the high school student handbook for 2022-23 as presented.
Make the motion.
Motion by Johnson, second by Lyon. Discussion.
That took a while.
Yeah, thank you again. I mean, I know that's a labor of love. You said it wasn't a lot of changes, but I know that still takes a lot. You gotta take input to make it happen, so.
Well, this is the update for 23, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. I need a motion and a second to approve the high school course schedule for the 2022-23 school year as presented.
Make the motion.
Motion by Johnson,
Second.
second by Trask. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. And final motion and a second to approve a 2-year preventative maintenance contract with Peterson Sheet Metal.
Make the motion.
Motion by Johnson, second by Lyon. Discussion.
What does that all cover?
Covers a lot like on-call service calls, emergencies, stuff like that come through 2 or 3 times a year for preventative, go through the HVAC unit, boiler, stuff like that. The reason I talked with Jeff and the reason why I'm saying is that 2-year, 1 year and 2 year, the cost is the same. The only difference is if we go to a 2-year, we get a 15% discount on parts versus if we go to a 1 year, it's a 10%. And the cost of parts are jumping up right now. Pretty good.
If you can even get them.
So it includes 2 site visits, one in December and one in June.
Okay.
There's a list of things that can go through.
Okay, further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Any other discussion? Any other? Okay. I guess at that point, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 7:15. Once again.
I like this.
Yes, that was well received.
Mhm.
I mean, you understanding the finances, but it just makes it easy. I mean, I don't have to start digging to come up with those questions. There wasn't a mistake on there. I don't know if you helped.
Oh, I didn't look at the,
Yeah, the numbers wise,
The
just in
numbers.
case you do go over it.
That one.
That was a 113.